Now we have among us Dr. Kapahy. Whenever I speak to him, whenever he says, sir, you tell us about yourself, we would like to speak openly about your profile, read your profile. He would say, you just have to say that I'm a very, very active DUTA activist. That is the introduction that he always does. Yes, sir.
Friends, very illustrious people on the dais and equally illustrious people who are sitting in front of me. I see many professors, many principals sitting downstairs, and I happen to be on the dais. You see, right in the beginning, I would like to say, as very rightly pointed out, that I have got nothing much to talk about as my CV. You see, as far as the introduction is concerned, I have, after my retirement, I have slipped into respectability. That is to say that I have been made the member of the UGC after my retirement. Till my retirement, I have been a DUTA activist. I have been a teacher movement person. And therefore, the structure of my thinking is also guided by that 42 years experience as a teacher activist and less than 1 year experience as a UGC member, as an administrator, as a regulator. There's one thing that I would like to say right in the beginning. You see, I have been a great admirer. I've been coming to this college as I've been going to the other colleges, but I have not been able to say that. And that is, as far as your college is concerned, Guru Gobind Singh College, that is the college I have really admired. And whenever some student has come to me who's passed his 12th class, and naturally his intention of his or her is to go to a slightly, what I said, a higher caste college situated in the campus. Right. But I had always advised him that if you join this college, then you will be in a good place. And after joining this college, if you talk to the students after 1 or 2 years, they had always been very appreciative of an advice which I gave at that time, which was not appreciated, but after staying here for about a year or two, they have really appreciated this, and that is why, that is the kind of an achievement. And that is why I say that as far as scholarship is concerned, as far as merit is concerned, it is not a function of geography. That is, if you are situated in a university department or if you are situated in a campus college, only then you are meritorious. If you are outside, then you are less meritorious. Merit is beyond geography, is beyond this thing, and your college has proven that. You see, there is always an advantage and disadvantage of not being the first few speakers, because all that is worth saying had already been said. In any case, it is an advantage for me because I did not have very much worthwhile to say, because I don't belong to this department function. I don't belong to this discipline of economics or commerce. I have only a generalist viewpoint about this. But there are certain, as a reader of newspapers, as a common sense person, you see, I notice, I've been told that as far as the service sector is concerned, of course it is booming, it is prospering, it leaps and bounds, etc. So it is celebrated. Depending upon what is the method of calculations, they say that the GDP sector is varying between 55 to 65%. I don't know exactly what is the exact percentage, but it is certainly above 50%. It's certainly, the average is about 60% or so. And always I've been told, Chadha Sahib has given such a beautiful narration, and he says that as far as the growth rate is concerned, as far as the growth of GDP is concerned, it is about 73 to 75%. As far as the growth rate is concerned, that contributes to the service sector. So far, so good. It is booming. But I have to, as a journalist, as a non-student of economics, there is a fear also. And the fear is that what is booming may not bomb. That is to say that if it's a bubble, it might not get pricked. Therefore, therefore I say that much that I would celebrate, much that there is a cause for celebration for the service sector to grow, but I think it should not be over-celebrated. Unless, and very rightly pointed out by Chadda Sahab and the other, Gaurav also pointed out that is, you see, unless the service sector is balanced by the manufacturing sector, that is or the farming sector, which are the primary and the secondary sectors, unless there is some kind of a balance between all these three, then the economy would always remain on this tenterhook. And I don't understand the dynamics of economics, but I would say that dependence, over-celebration of the service sector may not be really good. Unless the manufacturing sector is also supplemented. And you see, in other countries, in China, etc., I find that there is a good emphasis upon the manufacturing sector. So therefore, this caution has to be there. And very rightly pointed out, as far as the primary sector of farming is concerned, that red line, very appropriately, Chadda Sahib has made it a red, and it is descending very steeply, it is descending. You see, we always say that India is an ancient civilization, but it's a youthful country. Why we say this is essentially because, it's almost become a cliche, propagated by Mr. Modi, that is about 65% of our population is below 35 years of age. For such a country, education and health must be of primary importance. Education and health. But somehow over the years, education and health had been the low priority areas. I don't know the exact figures, but I know that if you consider the expenditure as a percentage of GDP on education from the first 5-year plan to the 12th 5-year plan, it has reduced from somewhere in the range of about 4.2 to about slightly less than or near about 3%. Only because the size of the economy, size of the GDP has increased. Therefore, the absolute amount has increased, but as a percentage it has decreased. And it's both for health as well as for education. And you see, it is always said that there is no money available. There is no money available. Now, I can say it in a jocular fashion that during the last about 10 years or so, we have been hearing of scams. You see, any misappropriation of money which qualified to be called a scam had to be minimum of about 60,000 to 70,000 crores of rupees. Unless if it was less than that, it was a change. It was not even worth calling a scam. We heard of 2 lakh scam and 2 lakh crore and 1,80,000, 6,000 crore scams, etc. And if you find that as far as the budget is concerned, year before last, it spent 65,000 crores was the MHRD budget. And you compare it with a moderate size, good looking scam. You see, about 65,000, that is the comparison. So therefore money is available. Money is available, there should be made. There should be made, and health, and very rightly pointed out, Gaurav also very rightly pointed out, that education and health, they are important. And somehow or the other, we have begun to accept as a gospel truth that it has to go to the private sector. I'm not against the private sector, and I'll come to that in a minute, but it is not a gospel truth. Essentially, the state's responsibility is also towards health and education. I did not go further into this. Third is, you see, when we were seeing that graph, then I noticed that railways' contribution to the growth of service sector is only 1%. You must have noticed. Now this was a news to me. It's a news to me because you see, for example, railway, for the capacity building, for infrastructure, etc., railway is extremely important. And if the growth, its contribution to the growth of GDP in the service sector being only 1%, that is something which really disappointed me. So therefore, more balance is to be maintained. You see, since the time, as I have retired, so whenever I see a mic, there is a tendency to talk for 50 minutes. Since for last about 4 years, I have not had the chance. But nevertheless, I will restrict myself and restrict only to 2 or 3 points. One is that, huge, you see, there is a huge numerical, quantitative expansion in our education since 1947. I need not go into the details, but you see, there were only about 20 universities, 50 universities in 1947, and only about 5,000 colleges. 5,000 colleges. Now there are 700 some odd universities, including all kinds of universities, central, state, deemed to be universities, private universities, and there are 2 crore 50 lakh people in the higher education. And more than about approximately 30 crores students in the school sector, in the this thing. So it is expanding. This expansion, not enough. It is not a good and sufficient condition, but it's a good condition also. I always maintain, of course, you see, when one talks about the quality, but the quantity is also, and I say, and it might appear to be what is called a contradiction in terms. At times the quality flows out of quantity. That is, quality flowing out of quantity is a, in a sense, it may sound very funny, but it's true. Like our cricket team, when the cricket team, the formation of the Indian cricket team was confined only to the selected families. Then we knew what is the position this. When it went to the cricket went to the Mufassal towns, etc., the non-English speaking people also started participating in this. During the last about 15 to 16 years, it has really gone. Similarly, as far as if there is an expansion of the base, then the probability, since the catchment area is larger, so the probability of a qualitative improvement is also larger. So therefore it flows out to this. But nevertheless, the worry is there is no emphasis upon the quality. Though you see, we are very happy about so many universities, but how many of them are in the first 400, first 200, etc., etc. So this is something that we have to concentrate on. It is only because, why it is so is, that we have the colonial system, we are continuing with this. We are expanding on the colonial system that we have had, where in the universities there was set pattern, in the schools there were set patterns. There is no innovation. There is no innovation which is suiting the psyche of the Indian nation. You see, so therefore this kind of innovation is required. One can talk a lot about this, but mere expansion necessary. It's a good condition, but not a sufficient condition. For a good and sufficient condition to apply, it is necessary that there should be a combination of the emphasis upon the quality also. One can talk a lot on this, but since the time is restricted, I will restrict myself only in stating this. But then, friends, you see, as a DUTA activist, as a 42 years teacher in Delhi University, there are many things now after retirement that I have to unlearn. That process of unlearning is also a process of learning. Now the process of unlearning is that previously we used to think that everything has to be done by the government. Government responsibility is there. And all the private contribution to education was looked down upon. But that has to change. Government's responsibility is there. It has to increase many times. But to isolate an entire section of community, entire section of non-profit, not-for-profit contribution to education, that should not be looked down upon, that should be welcome. Even in Delhi University system, you'll find that some of the more prestigious colleges, they did not come out as a government colleges. You talk of St. Stephen's, you talk of Hindu, you talk of so many other colleges, right? They did not come out as, you see, the contribution of the communities, not the religious denominations also, communities in the religious denomination, for example, the entire, what you call, Arya Samaj movement was responsible for education, right, from the 20th century. Why scoff upon that? This Gurdwara Sikh Prabandhan Committee, they have created so excellent colleges. This is an example. So, we must welcome, so there is a change in paradigm of thinking, that is, the private, non-profit contribution to education must also be welcomed. And it is very strange. I mean, I have got many very revolutionary friends. All of them are sending their kids, as far as schools is concerned, to the best of colleges. More revolutionary a person, better, more elite the college, is the school that his or her child would be going. But the moment it comes to higher education, then it says, no, government only. That has to change. And you might have noticed this. So therefore, both at the higher education level and at the school level, the contribution of private does not mean only commercial. Private means non-government. I mean, this private, that should change. And for that, huge amount of paradigm shift in the structure of what you call regulation. I belong to a regulatory committee, but I find that it's a very archaic kind of a thing. It has to change. And I don't agree with this, that there are 14 kinds of regulators for opening, and it is true. And if there is only one regulator at the higher level, then it will become better. Why it will not become better is because, you see, then that will have 14 departments. You see, our system is over-regulated and under-governed. But there should be more emphasis on governance rather than only on regulation. I mean, certain set of rules should be there, and then you should be. One is this. And second, and that is my last point, I know that I have spoken for more time, that is, whole paradigm of the structure of education is also to undergo a change. You see, we were given to understand that as far as higher education is concerned, it is only for the distillation of crystallized knowledge, it is only for the intellectual growth. Of course it is for the intellectual growth, but the education has also to cater to the professional skills, to the life skills, to the building of the character, and that is why this emphasis upon skills is a welcome emphasis. And you see, though we don't have time, Chaudhary Sahab also mentioned about that there is a huge amount, that is what is called reskilling. I mean, there are lots of electricians, carpenters, etc., which you mentioned about, and I mean, they are almost, as of today, there are 300 million, that is about 30 crore, such unskilled, labor. If they are given some kind of a certification, if they can give some kind of a certification, and then not only it will generate the employment, you see, it will also add to the most important, what is called the secondary sector of manufacturing. And in the countries which have developed, for example in South Korea, I was very happy to read, this skilled labor, it constitutes almost about, as I am told, about 95% or so. 95%. In India it is only 2% as of today. 95% there, 75% about in South Korea. And that's why you find that South Korea over the last about 25 years or so has gone up like this. In Japan it is about 80%. Even in European countries like Germany and England, 75 and 70% or so. So therefore there has to be emphasis upon the skill development also. And in the end I would say that though I congratulate the college for such a brilliant holding of this seminar and having this galaxy of the speakers, both here and who are sitting on the opposite side, because they will be functioning late. But at the same time, you should also ponder over the fact that dependence only upon the service sector may not be good for the economy in the very long term. Thank you very much.